Welcome to Your Brand Amplified, the podcast where we interview marketers, publicists, and brands to learn their stories, what makes them tick, and tips and tricks that make a difference. I am so thrilled on this episode to have Teresa Easler of Connect to the Core with us. I'm your host, Annika Jackson. Teresa, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah. So I love communication. You love communication. As I understand it, you were very early to communication. You might not have known it was going to be your future career, but it's something you enjoyed in elementary school. And that's part of the introduction, which I love. So I'd love for you to share how your schooling helped or didn't help you decide to go into this field.
Well, I was one of those lucky people and I felt a calling. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that that's what it was, except that I kept getting steered in the direction of communication. And I would say, like many people, I had teachers who were pivotal, were instrumental in guiding me. And one of them was my speech teacher. And he ended up being my debate coach and worked with me in really formulating my ability to speak in front of people and to put together some thoughts so that it made sense and it actually could influence or persuade people to a point of view. Mm-hmm. So it really started there and then it continued. I kept into it and I had really great mentors who encouraged me and I had success. So that's a great encouragement too.
Oh, yeah.
So I had success along the way. So I kept pursuing it and here I am today.
Wonderful. Well, when you first moved into communication as a career, what was that first step? Did you work at an agency? Did you work for a big company? Did you always know that you were going to be an entrepreneur that would help others learn how to effectively communicate?
Do you know, one of the things that really helped me was I was in a corporate job. Mm-hmm. And I was working with one of the major banks. And I was working really this is early days of technology, really technology being adapted into financial realm. Wow. And I remember a meeting that we had with our Japanese counterparts. And the whole way that they interacted with us was very different than how we interacted in our own meetings. And so it really caused me to stop and pay attention to not everybody communicates the same way. Not all of the protocols or customs are the same. Not everybody is listening for the same thing. Not everybody is interested in the same thing. And so as I was engaged in this meeting and also an observer of this meeting, I thought, there's something really important to pay attention to here. And I took that and then I moved it into when I became an entrepreneur, which was shortly after that. I've been an entrepreneur for a really long time, but I took it into my entrepreneurial career and used that with my clients as helping them with their communication and their ability to get their messages across.
Wow. Was that a scary leap to move from corporate security to being an entrepreneur?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, it is one of those like, I hope this turns out, right? I hope I'm not losing my mind. And, you know, it was the right thing to do. I can't even imagine going back to the corporate world. And part of it is I'm totally unemployable. I am, you know,
I say that about myself all the time.
Like, oh my God, I would be the worst employee. I'm a great entrepreneur, but I'm a terrible employee. And so taking that leap, I always had some side gigs going, even in the corporate environment, but making that full, like, this is it, there's no safety net, anything like that, it was a big leap.
Well, what helped you finally decide to take that leap?
Well, at the time, my husband had been recruited for a position and the investors pulled the plug on it. We were living in Canada. We're both Americans living in Canada. And we had to make a decision about what we were going to do. And were we going to go and work for somebody else? Or we had always talked about maybe we'd start a company. So we took the opportunity and said, here we are. Let's do it. Let's just start the company. So we're living in a new country, starting a new thing. We had a newborn child and said, okay, now or never.
Something else.
We sold our house. We used the money from our house to fund the business. It's like we rolled the dice and took a chance and it turned out all right.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So many people who are in entrepreneurship all try to do the corporate thing, right?
Yeah.
Here, that's what we're supposed to do, the security. But often, like you said, you had side gigs. You always were interested in doing other things and finding other ways to connect with the world and help people. And so that conversation, that meeting sparked, oh, wait, there's a whole other world out there that people aren't accessing that they need to use.
Yeah.
So
it was a scary time, but it was, those times when you just know.
Yeah.
It was one of those. It's like, we just know this is the right thing to do. There's something really good here. And let's just focus on that.
Mm-hmm. So what was it like forming your company? And please talk us through some of the things that you work with clients on.
Well, early days, because I've worked for myself for a long time, and I think anybody who is an entrepreneur, anybody who works for themselves, if they've been in it long enough, the business that they started in is not necessarily the business that they're in later, because it always is going to evolve. As I've learned, as I've developed, as I've focused on different things, it's morphed and changed. And in the early days, our company was an events company. And it did big events, it did launches, it did all of that kind of stuff. And my role in all of that is I was the strategic thinker. I was the, strategy person of making sure that the message is the right message. And then because in early days we focused primarily in high tech, there were a lot of IPOs, getting technical people ready to be able to tell the world about their message and taking really complex stuff that nobody understood and getting it in a language that others, like normal people like me, would understand what they were talking about and why I would be interested in and how it was going to impact my life. So it really transitioned from really complex things to being able to simplify it and make it meaningful and relevant to the people that they were speaking to. So that's really the focus that I work on now, is not only for organizations that they have a message that captures what's really unique about them and is their secret sauce that's beyond their products or their services. Because truthfully, nobody buys products and services. They buy something else. They buy a solution that solves a problem for them. And on the individual communication of how do I personally get my message across, either externally to my customers or my constituents or my board, or internally to my team members, so that people do what I want them to do.
Well, and that they understand how to share who we are and why we do what we do and who all of that with the world as well. And you're hitting on some fundamentals that I think a lot of people try to skip over. Because
unfortunately,
sometimes I'll have people come for PR, but they don't have a clear sense of who they are. They don't know the different customer personas that they're going to reach out to, or how to nuance the messages with those. And so that's really, you're helping them take their brand, really distill who they are as a brand. And then it helps everybody else on the marketing side or the PR side or the ads buying side do their jobs more effectively.
Yes. And the other piece of it, and you touched on this, the other piece of it is to have it come from a place of authenticity rather than, this is what the market research tells us we should say this. Because this is going to get us whatever result. And if that's not aligned with what's true for you, it's not going to come off well. It may in the short term get some results, but it's not going to be lasting. It's not going to sustain.
And do you think that's been a shift in the market? Because I feel like in the past few years, people are paying a lot more attention. I mean, to me, I always want to present myself and my company and my business as who we are and what we do, and be very authentic with who we want to work with and how we show up. But I think a lot of bigger brands haven't, they've been big brands and they've focused more on their product or their service rather than that feeling that they invoke. Although you can look at like Coca-Cola or Pepsi and their ads, and they try to invoke fuzzy, warm feelings, but we all know it's like, okay, I'm not going to feel that because I drink your product. But do you think that there's been a shift, or has it always been there and people are just awakening to it more?
I think some companies are really in touch with that. If you look at somebody like a Patagonia, they're deeply in touch with it. Like that whole authentic part of themselves, of what's most important to them, what they believe, where, what their true north is. That drives everything. But I'm seeing more and more companies move in that direction because they've seen the results. You can manipulate people into thinking, doing things for a while, but it's purely transactional. You have to keep replacing those people. It's like, what's the next transaction? What's the next transaction? What's the next transaction? That's what I mean, that it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
So it's not a relational sort of thing. If you're going to work really from a relational standpoint, you have to be able to have a relationship. And that means you have to show up in an authentic way. People have to have somebody real to have a relationship with.
Yeah.
And so some of that, particularly in the online marketing realm, is like, oh, I can get more subscribers, but they fall off constantly. There's like the churn rate of replacing them is because wait, there's nobody's home. I'm part of this treadmill and nobody really is engaging with me as a person. It's all feels like manipulation.
Yeah. It's all sales, 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 sales.
Yeah.
Instead of that storytelling element.
Yeah. What about us as people?
Right. So to that point, how do you help businesses, entrepreneurs shift from thinking about we're selling a product, we're selling a service to focusing on solutions and the problem that you're solving? Do you have certain steps, exercises, questions that you walk people through when you're doing this work with them?
Yes, all of the above.
Yeah.
and I think one of the things, the first thing is if it's an organization, the first thing is we've created something that we call the hierarchy of business. And it really is a context for understanding what it is that customers or clients are looking for, not what we automatically provide them with. So automatically, the bottom of the food chain and the most commoditized area. So remember, commodities, the only differentiator with a commodity is price. Really an ugly place to have to compete, right? Nobody wants to compete there. Yet that's where most companies position themselves, to be straight in a commoditized environment. And that's because you become a product or a service expert. I know my product. I know all of its features. Let me tell you about my features versus their features. The same thing in service. Let me tell you all the different things that we do. Let me tell you about all of our different offices and how expansive. One, we're speaking only about ourselves and we're only speaking about our offerings, our products or services. So that makes us, we're just like everybody else. And it's like, okay, great. How much is it? That's immediately the response. When you move up that hierarchy, the next level is where you are a solution expert. So you've got a solution, it's packaged. You can go out there and it's like, here's my solution. It's really cool. See, it does this, this, this. And it's more sophisticated. It's at a higher level than being a product or service expert. But it's still quite a bit of commoditization that happens. Where you get to the pinnacle is when you are a problem expert. You know the problems that your customers or clients are facing probably better than they do. And there are a number of things that have to happen before you can be a problem expert. But the first thing is that you have to know who your clients are.
Yeah.
And you have to be focused. This is the hardest thing that I've seen for all businesses. Is because the natural response is, but what we do is good for everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
Even as communications experts, I feel like we're always honing in on who our ideal clients are as well.
Exactly.
I worked with somebody who's had a digital agency since Google first started. And we went through some exercises and they're like, oh, who I'm reaching right now is not at all who I want to be reaching. And so it made them really examine who do they want to work with? How do they want to show up? And how are they showing up to their ideal customer instead of attracting these other people out there? It's always a process, but I'm sure when you're going through these exercises with your clients too, it creates those aha moments where sometimes it ends up helping them shift their business, or they go, oh yeah, now I understand.
It changes everything. But the other thing, what it allows you to do is it allows you to really know them and like deeply know them like, where are they experiencing pain? We all have problems we're trying to solve. That's the only reason we're buying anything is we're trying to solve a problem. And when you know them so well and you're focused on them, you know what problems they're trying to solve. The diagnostics become much more powerful. But when it's everybody, it's like, what problem? Oh, well, this group is, they want this, or this group wants this, or this group wants this. And you can't be focused. You're all over the map. And so nobody knows what it is that you do or why you do it. So that piece of it, of being able to focus on who it is that you're communicating with, what is it that they're trying to solve for, that becomes the primary conversation. We solve this problem. And how we solve this problem, by the way, are these solutions. So the solutions are important in service of solving the problem. And by the way, we have these products and services that we use to provide our service to solve the problem. So it's exactly upside down from the typical approach. And it's a shift for people mentally that it's simple, it is not easy.
Yeah, that is for sure. And it's shifting the whole way that people are talking, because we always hear elevator speech. You have to know what are you going to say to somebody, 3 sentences, 30 seconds, whatever the case may be. It's also shifting that from, again, like you said, parodying, well, here's what we do, to here's who we are and here's why we do what we do.
Yeah, it changes the conversation where now instead of looking for somebody, because all of us have problems in search of someone who can take it away, take my pain away from me. And some of the problem might be that there's an aspiration that you can't reach. Like I've got goals that I'm trying to reach. I have tried everything to get there. I haven't been able to do it. And I don't know how to figure it out. So been out trying to find a way of taking that pain of not reaching a goal or not getting a result away. And we keep trying to find them. But when somebody says, I know, I understand this is what you want. I understand this is what you aspire to. I understand that there have been a lot of hiccups along the way or roadblocks along the way that have gotten in the way. And we are uniquely positioned to take care of that. We are uniquely positioned to take that pain away from you. And we're not testing this out on you. We have a methodology that we've created that has been created specifically to take that particular pain away. And we utilize some of these different tools that we've created, some of these products that are proprietary, or some of these different services to be able to, it completely changes the tenor of the conversation.
It does. Now, when people come to you to work with you and get you to come in and help their teams fine tune all of this, are they usually at a point where they're feeling stuck? Or is it usually like they're just starting out in business, or is it a wide variety?
They're already in business. Although I've worked in my career with a lot of startups. But even at a startup, usually there's quite a well-formulated idea of what you're doing. There's been a need or a gap that somebody says, we can fill this. So that's the pain. That's usually why most of us go into business is we saw a pain and we said, we're going to take care of that. But mostly they have big goals. They have big ambitions and they're trying to get there and they keep getting stopped. And they've tried lots of different things and it's just not working. And they know, this is a funny thing. They know that when they're speaking about what they do, that every time they walk away and go, oh, I said it differently this time. That one piece worked. Boy, that bombed. The whole variety of things that happen when we go out there and somebody asks the most hated question on the planet. So what is it that you do? It's like, okay, what do I make up this time?
Right.
What do I say this time? I hope it works. Right?
Yeah.
Because we don't, it's just like, how do we capture that? How do we say it in a way that really lets people know the value that we bring to a situation and how we can contribute to their success?
Yeah. Do you have a case study or two that you'd want to share when you started working with somebody and they had that aha moment? And
there's a company, they provide printing services to all of the banks, like all of the top banks. And I was brought in to help them with an RFP pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a big RFP pitch. I think it was about $35 million or something. So they said, can you help us with it? We've got the RFP finished. We've got our date for when we're presenting. And we were told, I'd never met them. It was over the phone. They said, we're told you're the only person who's going to be able to get this done. And I said, okay. And I said, here's the process that I'll take you through to get ready for it. And I said, this is what I'm going to start with. And, first being really clear about who it is that you're speaking to. And then I'm going to take you through. I created something that's called the Power to Connect. It was a worksheet, a book, seminars, webinars that I do about preparing for any communication.
Nice.
And getting very intentional on your communication. I said, I'm going to take you through this process. We've already done all of that. I know you've probably heard that from all of your clients. Oh, yeah, we've already done all of that. We don't need to do that. It's like, okay, then it won't take us long. We'll whip right through it. You don't have to worry. I know myself is like, they haven't done this. But I'm not going to argue with them. I'll prove it to them. So I go in and I'm there with all of the senior executives because this is a big pitch. And they said the CEO is not going to be here. He's already been part of this. He'll just duck in, say hi, and all of that. Well, the long story short is he came in, said hello, stayed, pulled a chair out, sat down at the table. I started walking them through that, and it became very clear to them immediately that they had not done this. Wow. And by the end of it, after what we had gone through, I did their pitch for them on the spot. I just did it and was like, here's how you speak about what you do and why they're going to hire you and do everything. And the CEO said, can we get our writers in here and our marketing people in here? And can you redo that again? And I said, yes, I can. And then we went through and we completely, on my direction, completely changed the order of the presentation, completely shifted around. It was not like walking through sequentially through the RFP. We changed it so that it focused, like I said, it focused on here's the problem that you're trying to solve. The outcome is going to be here. Here's how we're going to accomplish that. And here's how you can feel assured that this is going to work out to your benefit. Anyway, they went into the presentation to one of the world's largest banks. I was not there. When they came out, they had hired from one of the large consulting firms, was working with the bank in vetting the suppliers for this. The consultant came out and spoke to the executive team and said, that was the best RFP presentation I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm going to use that methodology to teach my clients how to do this because you guys got it. And it was all based upon that. So needless to say, my client was, you won this for us. And let's look for some other things you can help us.
I have chills hearing that.
Yeah.
I think for us, that's why we do what we do, right? We love those moments when people see, they're like, oh, yes, now I get it.
Yeah, it was a pretty exciting thing. And I know you experienced this too. I mean, I knew it was good. I knew that the guidance that I gave them was the right thing to do and it would yield results for them. They didn't know it. And I appreciated so much that they trusted me. I mean, this is a huge trust when that much money is on the line. As I worked with them, they knew what I was saying was true because, it's like you feel it in your body. It resonates. It's like, yes, this is it. This is right. And that's what they experienced. And then they got the results too. So that was pretty awesome.
Yay. Congratulations. Yay. Yeah. Are those typical of the kinds of clients that you work with? Do you work with primarily businesses that are working with other businesses? Do you work with small entrepreneurs, or is there a specific category of businesses you like to work with?
Mostly B2B and primarily entrepreneurial organizations. And I have a handful of large corporate clients that are pretty entrepreneurial. I work with kind of entrepreneurial units within the larger corporation, but my love is really entrepreneurial organizations. And I work with some smaller ones. They're almost like my pro bono types of clients. I work with them because it's a bit like a mentoring, almost like mentoring for me in that way. It's like, how do you make your way from the beginning to really getting yourself scaled at different levels. The sweet spot of where the work is the most fun for me is at somewhere around the 10 million mark, where revenues are around there, right at that threshold where they're getting ready to make the next leap, because that is a threshold for entrepreneurial organizations. So working with them, it's really fun because I can get them to the next level. And then this is a huge, broad range, but they're different and interesting communication problems that I love to solve. But when a company is in the 100 to 200 million group as an entrepreneurial organization, they're now facing different communication challenges, and now they're in more internal communication problems and challenges, not so much external communication problems, but they're internal communication problems and leadership problems and how that shows up in leadership. And I love working with those. Again, both of them had the commonality that they have. It's development. It's really development of individuals to achieve much more than they thought that they could achieve.
Yeah. Oh, and we haven't really talked about that on the show before, the difference between the different sizes of organizations and how their challenges are different.
Very different, very different. There are different stages. And as I said, one of them is around that 10 to 12 million. And then there's another plateau that happens around 30 to 40 million. Then there's another one that happens when you're getting up to 100. And then there's another one that happens after 200. And then there's some other ones after that. But those are typical entrepreneurial stages that I've seen. And they have different communication problems. They have different organizational problems, internal communication, but some of them is their external communication too.
Yeah. Well, and it has to be fun for you to be able to dive into those different issues with each area and lend your expertise.
Yeah, it's very fun. You know, I pinch myself almost daily going, man, how did I get this lucky that I get to do this for a living? Wow. This is like, how fun that I get to do this. And that I get to work with really extraordinary people. You know, I get to work with really amazing clients who have become my friends. It's one of our values, our core values, is anybody that we work with, if we wouldn't like to go out and have a glass of wine or a beer afterwards, they're probably not a good fit for us, right? Because we become so deeply invested in the success of the company. And it's like we pour our entire hearts into it. And so we want to make sure we're pouring it in with people that we like hanging out with.
Yeah. Well, that's very much the same approach. I don't want to just work with anybody, and I don't want to just be an agency or a person they hire. I want to be a partner because they're going to invest in this relationship with me. I'm going to invest fully in them. Yeah. So I love it when other practitioners say the same thing. Yeah. And I think it just makes us so much more satisfied, and it helps make us so much more successful because they see that passion and that joy along with the expertise that we're going to bring to what we're doing for them and with them.
There are so many of my clients who have been my clients for more than 20 years.
It's so beautiful.
And some of them that started when they were like fresh in their careers and now are the senior people of, you know, the icons in industries. And they were watching them and seeing them and developing them. It's like, I'm kind of like a proud mom. It's like, I just love how you developed and who you've become and how amazing you are. It's really cool. It's very fun.
What do you see next for Connect to the Core? Are there other things that you want to offer? Are there other areas you want to get into? Do you want to keep working with all the amazing people you're working with now?
Well, I love working with the clients that we have now, but what's next for us is that, you know, we're one small company. And so the reach that we can have, the impact that we can have through our own work is limited. And actually, I just was having this conversation with my team is we have created so much. We've created so many methodologies. We've created and developed so much of our own intellectual property that the next step for us is making it available for other practitioners, other consultants, other coaches. They want something that they can take and use as a methodology that they can build and add to their business. That's our next step.
Very nice. And is this because you did mention that you have a book and you have some workshops and courses and things already developed? And these are,
I had been thinking about this for a while. But it's always my clients who have been the ones who have pushed me forward. Mm-hmm. And when I have clients who say, would you teach me how to do what you do? I'm looking at the next stage of my career. What do I want to do? Would you teach me how to do what you want to do? Mm. And even corporate clients who have said, your methodologies, the one of them that I told you about, Power to Connect, this is for one of the large accounting firms. This makes all the difference for our partners.
Amazing.
And we'd like to talk to you about how we can bring that into our organization. So my clients have been the ones who have saying, can you do this for us? It's like, oh, wow. I guess I better.
Yeah. That is a yes.
I guess I should do that. And the answer is yes.
I love that. So what is the easiest way for people to find out about how to work with you or how to take one of your courses, read your books?
Thank you for asking. Probably the easiest way is social media. Mm-hmm. We're on every place on social media. LinkedIn is the best. Probably on there, because when our public courses are coming up, we do newsletters. Mm-hmm. I offer a free webinar once a month that is a quick 30-minute, these are some tips, do this, some open mic Q&A kind of thing, quick things, so that it's really easy, and constantly doing little snippets, videos, and you can get in touch with us and reach out to us and find out more.
Awesome. And I know we're going to have a couple of freebies. People can go onto your website. That'll be in the show notes. So people can download some of your resources and do a little quiz, I believe, to see where their business is.
Yep. There's a scorecard.
Yeah.
So they can complete the scorecard too.
Awesome. Well, is there any last advice you'd like to leave for anybody who's listening who wants to know how to improve their communication?
That's a great question. And two things. One is the most important thing for good communication is to have it not be about you. Mm-hmm. It's always about the other person. The good old radio station, WIFM, what's in it for me, right? So having it not be about you. And the other piece about it is really be clear about your own intention for the communication. What is it? What's the outcome that you're looking for? Mm-hmm. And make sure that everything that you're designing is around that particular outcome. Don't get distracted by squirrels taking you off in other directions.
Yeah.
Keep it focused on the outcome that you want.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And lastly, do you have a quote or a mantra or some words of wisdom that you live by that you'd like to share with us?
There are so many of them. It's hard for me. And I'm going to paraphrase probably one of the most important ones. And it comes back to what I just said about intention. It's from Seneca. Mm-hmm. And it is that without knowing where your destination is, there is no such thing as a fair wind. So, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's without knowing where you're going, you can have the best kinds of opportunities that show up for you, but you won't even be able to take advantage of them. Know where you're going, set your intention, set your direction, and things will show up to help you get there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been very inspiring.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And to our audience, thank you for coming back for another episode of Your Brand Amplified. I'm Annika Jackson here with Teresa Easler of Connect to the Core. We will have her website in the show notes and all of the information on how to reach out to her. And I'll be back again in a couple of days with some more great experts dropping advice for you all to adhere to make your businesses better for 2023 and beyond. Want more? Check out amplifywithannika.com or follow me on socials at amplifywithannika.